Good morning, and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Drew Valonis, your worship associate for this morning, and our service today will be led by Linda Starkweather. Welcome back, and thank you to Scott Wright for providing music for us this summer. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We plan to continue with hybrid worship services so you can join us each week here in person, on Zoom, or later on YouTube. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway, and whether it's your first visit or your 1000th, we are glad that you came. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. At the end of the service, we'll invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave. I have a few announcements to share with you today. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the card on your chair. We invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket after Scott rings the chimes and begins to play. Please join us after the service today for our second Sunday potluck. Whether you brought a dish to share or not, you're welcome to stay. We always have enough to share. As a way to tie together our food-related justice work, we will ask the children for help collecting shelf-stable foods items during offering today by picking a wagon and wheeling it around as the offering baskets are passed. We'll organize these donations along with any others brought in throughout the month and send them out to food pantries and blessing boxes around the area. Justice Table is taking a break for the summer, so we'll not be gathering this Friday or the third Friday of August, but Rochester Pride events are happening next weekend, including a gender-affirming clothing swap and float decorating at First Universalist at 6:30 p.m. on Friday the 17th. Parade on Saturday with lineup at 10:30, and joint worship service with First Unitarian and First Universalist on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Contact Reverend Cindy for more information if you'd like to march in the parade. The joint worship service will be hosted at First Universalist at 10:30. We encourage you to take a field trip to join in person, tune in to their live stream link from home, or come here to watch together. Naples Pride is coming up on Saturday, July 25th from 1 to 5 p.m. There will be crafting, live music, a march down Main Street, and a community potluck including donations from multiple area restaurants. If you would like to volunteer to spread love and glitter blessings from UUCC, please contact Danielle Lyon to sign up for a tabling slot. You may have noticed a difference with the way our emailed announcements are delivered. Scarlett is working on a way to get back to sending the newsletters directly, but until then, please click the link in the emails from the UUCC Chalice. Full details on upcoming events. Are there any other announcements for the good of the community?
I think I put the wrong church for the Friday night event. The clothing swap and the float decorating is at First Unitarian.
As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs, the recipient of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. It's so great to be back here. A lot of you don't know Lynn and myself. We've been, connected with this congregation for at least 20 years, because that's how long we've been married. So we're so happy to be here this morning, and especially in the company of a fabulous pianist and a worship leader with, I guess, a voice that deserves to be famous. Wow, I'd give anything for that voice, yeah? Opening words this morning are by the comedian and activist Alok. We want a world where boys can feel, girls can lead, and the rest of us can not only exist, but thrive. This is not about erasing men and women, but rather acknowledging that man and woman are two of the many stars in a constellation that do not compete, but amplify one another's shine. There's a magic in being seen by people who understand. It gives you permission to keep going. Self-expression sometimes requires other people. Becoming ourselves is a collective journey.
Intro
So my brain got it wrong, but my fingers got it right. Everything's at First Universalist up in Rochester.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week the group is the AV team, the people who keep these microphones alive and the YouTube channel going. People interested in finding out more can contact Danielle Lyon. 1/4 of our plate collection for the growth season goes to the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Association. The CLWA mission is to inspire the entire watershed community to become stewards of Canandaigua Lake through education, scientific research, and advocating sound public policy. By engaging all stakeholders, they strive to preserve, protect, and restore the lake and its watershed for current and future generations. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. And I think this is also the time where we have the wagons go around to collect some food here. Well, we have a bunch of joys and sorrows. Scarlett has a joy that her first grandbaby, Alfie, was born June 22nd in Lansing, Michigan, to her daughter, Jasmine. All right. Jörn Overgaard and Lynn have a sorrow that they are mourning the passing of Rick Urich a week ago. Rick was our friend since this church started 30 years ago. His family was involved in the start and financing of this church. Nancy is excited for her granddaughter Taylor, who is traveling solo in Ireland this week. Abby is very excited that the Geneva Toy Library won a big grant to get a storefront. And Lova says happy birthday to her great-grandpa. And for these and all the other joys and sorrows that we carry in our hearts, I will drop one more pebble and ask that you say it with me. We are with you.
Send the children off now? No, we don't do that. Okay. Meditation time.
Yes.
Let's take a moment to Be silent and still as we join together, feet grounded on the floor, relaxed. Big breath in, eyes closed if you're comfortable. Hold that breath for a few seconds, and when you release it, release all tensions and worries as we simply be together in a delicious silence for a few moments. And a big breath all together. Ready? Let go of all the bad stuff on the breath out. Ready? Big breath in as a group. And let it out on sound if you dare. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Today I'd like to share some thoughts on beyond either or, what trans wisdom teaches us about becoming whole. Unitarian Universalism has always been a tradition that asks not only what we believe, but how we believe. We are people suspicious of certainty, wary of dogma, and deeply curious about the ways the world might be more whole than we have been taught to see it. We honor all spiritual practices and the diversity of paths leading to enlightenment. So today, I want to ask a somewhat radical question that may feel new or even uncomfortable for some, but I believe sits right at the heart of our current world's problems, of which there are many. What if emerging knowledge of transgender is not just about gender, but about the evolution of human consciousness itself? Can there be a trans revolution, not merely of bodies and pronouns, but of religion, economics, politics, and race? I believe the answer is yes, and I believe that revolution is already underway. Consider the violence of duality. From the moment we are born, we are sorted, male or female, saved or damned, rich or poor, right or wrong, black or white, us or them. These binaries promise clarity, they offer order, they reassure us that the world is manageable if we divide it cleanly enough. But clarity is not the same as truth. Binary thinking has shaped nearly every system that is now failing us. I'm going to repeat that because that's at the heart of this. Binary thinking has shaped nearly every system that is now failing us. Capitalism, depends on winners and losers. Politics depends on enemies. Religious fundamentalism depends on purity and exclusion. White supremacy depends on rigid racial categories enforced through violence. And patriarchy depends on strict gender roles policed at the level of the body. Duality is efficient, but it is also brutal. And it is no accident that those who live in between categories, queer people, trans people, biracial folks, religious heretics, atheists, and cultural border dwellers, have so often been treated as threats because they expose the lie. As a kid, I was considered a tomboy. I played sports, made forts in the woods, played baseball in the street, had mostly boyfriends, and had no use for my poor mother's wishes that I learn to sew, cook, and be a dignified young lady. I didn't want to be a boy. I just had way more fun playing with them. I remember Thanksgiving dinner at my grandmother's house with all the aunts and uncles and cousins in attendance. My mother, my aunts, and my grandmother awoke early to help prepare this amazing Thanksgiving dinner with all the trimmings. The men and kids were out playing in the yard until the dinner was served. We all piled in to enjoy this amazing feast, which lasted about 10 minutes, I think, including dessert. And then all the men left the table to watch the football game. Us kids ran outside to have fun while my grandmother, my aunts, and my mother cleaned up the mess. And at this point, it is important to reveal that my aunts, my mom, and my grandmother all had full-time jobs. It was at that moment, as a precious 10-year-old, that I realized which club I would rather belong to. 12 years later, I came out as a lesbian. I suspect the major reason for the choice was role rejection rather than any biological or traumatic reason. So, what do trans people reveal? The comedian, poet, and activist Alok often says something that unsettles people in the best way. Alok reminds us that gender is not a fact of nature we discovered. It is a system we invented, and systems can be changed. Alok speaks about how trans bodies are framed as confusing or dangerous, not because they are inherently so, but because they refuse to obey a worldview that insists everything must be either or. In Alok's words, trans people are not new. What is new is the attempt to erase them. Across cultures and centuries, two-spirit people, tomboys, ladyboys, sworn virgins, gender-variant mystics, human beings have always lived beyond the binary. What modern Western society did was to narrow the acceptable range of human expression and then punish those who exceeded it. So transgender is not an anomaly. It is a revelation and potentially a guide to the resurrection of hope, love, faith, and life itself within us all. Let's consider gender as a spiritual teacher. In our Unitarian tradition, we often say that revelation is ongoing. Truth does not arrive once and for all, it keeps unfolding. An evolution of sorts. What if trans people are part of that unfolding, that next step in our human evolution? Trans experience teaches us something profound, that identity is not fixed, that embodiment is not destiny, and that authenticity may require transformation. This is deeply spiritual knowledge. Think about it. Nearly every spiritual tradition speaks of rebirth, metamorphosis, shedding of old skins, dying before dying, and some sort of resurrection. Yet when people actually do this with their bodies and their lives, society panics. Why? Because trans people demonstrate that the self is not confined to what can be seen, categorized, or controlled. They show us that becoming is more fundamental than being, and that insight does not stop with gender. Now, let's go beyond sexual duality, because if we can release the binary of male-female, what else might loosen its grip? If gender can be a spectrum, a process, a story, what about sexuality? What about desire itself? Queer and trans communities have already shown us that love does not obey neat categories, that intimacy is creative, that attraction is contextual, that relationships can be shaped by consent rather than tradition. This doesn't mean chaos. It means choice. It means replacing compulsory norms with intentional ethics. And once we accept that in our most intimate lives, it becomes harder to justify rigid binaries elsewhere. So let's now consider going beyond religious duality. Religion, too, has been trapped in duality: believer or heretic, orthodox or deviant, sacred or profane. But trans wisdom invites us to see spirituality as a threshold experience, a crossing rather than a wall. Many trans people speak of transition in spiritual terms, not as rejection of the body, but as a deeper inhabitation of it. Not as rebellion against creation, but as collaboration with it. What if God is not found in fixed categories, but in transformation itself, in our own evolution, in a resurrection of spirit that is personally genuine? What if the sacred is not purity, but authenticity? Unitarians already gesture toward this truth. We affirm pluralism, we honor doubt, we trust experience. Consider that trans theology doesn't contradict our faith or our beliefs, but that it completes it. Now, going beyond economic duality. Capitalism thrives on binaries: productive or useless, employed or expendable, wealthy or poor, hardworking or lazy. Trans people often fall through these cracks. They are denied jobs, housing, health care, not because of lack of ability, but because systems are designed for conformity. Our comedian poet Alok often speaks about how transphobia is intertwined with capitalism, how gender norms discipline workers, how deviation is punished economically, how survival itself becomes politicized. A trans-informed economic vision would ask different questions. What if human worth were not tied to productivity? What if care were valued as much as profit? What if survival were guaranteed and not earned? These are not trans issues. They are human ones. Now, going beyond political duality. Politics today feels like a war between absolutes: red versus blue, patriots versus traitors, progress versus decay. Trans existence refuses this framing. Trans people are living evidence that complexity is not weakness, that contradiction can be fertile, that change does not mean betrayal. A trans-informed politics would move us from domination to negotiation, from purity test to coalition building, from fear of difference to curiosity about it. It would recognize that democracy, like gender, is not a static identity, but a living process. And finally, beyond racial duality. Race, too, is a constructed system enforced through rigid categories, and just as with gender, those who blur the lines, biracial folks, immigrants, diasporic communities, are often treated as destabilizing. There is a deep resonance between trans liberation and racial justice. Both challenge the idea that bodies should not determine destiny. Both confront the violence of classification, and both insist that identity is lived, not imposed. Alok speaks powerfully about how colonialism imposed both racial hierarchies and gender binaries simultaneously. To dismantle one without the other is incomplete work. Trans revolution, if it is real, must be intersectional, or it is not a revolution at all. So, can there be a trans revolution? Absolutely, but not the kind that simply flips who holds power. Not a revolution that replaces one hierarchy with another. A trans revolution would be quieter and yet more radical. It would be a revolution and a resurrection, an awakening of how we think. It would teach us to move beyond either or toward both and, beyond certainty toward curiosity, beyond fear toward relationship. It would invite us to see difference not as a threat, but as information. And it would ask each of us to examine where we cling to binaries because they make us feel safe. We do not have to be trans to learn from this wisdom. We only have to be willing to let go of the illusion that the world is simple. The work before us is not to erase categories entirely, but to hold them lightly, to remember that they are tools and not truths. In a time of polarization, trans people offer us a glimpse of another way to be human, one rooted in becoming rather than policing, in authenticity rather than obedience. May we have the courage to listen. May we have the humility to unlearn. And may we together participate in the slow, sacred resurrection of becoming more whole. May it be so. And now we're going to sing another hymn. What number is it, Scott? Do you know? Oh, sure. What does that look like? Okay, great. We're not singing the hymn yet. Something to look forward to. I'm really glad I didn't miss that. Thank you, Scott. Today's benediction, before we sing the hymn. Our faith is a faith that knows that transformation is a holy and sacred task that brings a generous heart and a lens of justice and liberation to all that we do, that values equality and equity and is centered in love. Our love gives us hope, a revolutionary love that challenges us to find the worth and dignity in those with whom we disagree. Love that inspires us to amplify the voices that are often silenced. Love that holds us when the work of liberation seems so daunting. A love so big it bears the heavy weight of complex humans with ease. May love, hope, and wisdom guide us in our lifelong work toward liberation.
And our closing hymn, folks, is going to be number 168, One More Step.
Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth or community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.